This is probably the most passive-aggressive I've ever seen Eddie Hearn in an interview. He was asked questions about the Calm Brooks show on Sky and the undercard, etc. And he was sat there with the body language and even with the tone of voice of someone who was being complimentary. But if you actually listen to what he was saying, the words coming out of his mouth, it was subliminal digs constantly. Oh yeah, that was a great fight, even though they're both past it and all that kind of stuff. And it would have been much better years ago. Oh, it was still, it was still good, even though it was a one-sided fight. You know, that kind of thing. The passive aggressiveness. And when he was talking about Natasha Jonas's fight as well. Oh yeah, well, you know, she always had to beat her because that opponent wasn't very good, but it's great for Natasha, tremendous, all this kind of thing. The passive aggressiveness. Now, Eddie Hearn has talked many times in the past about the fact that the likes of Frank Warren and Bob Arum and all these other promoters are bitter. And he doesn't understand why they're bitter. But at the same time, he thinks that perhaps sometime down the line, he could turn into them. He could become as bitter as they are. Well, I think it's starting to happen because this interview with the passive aggressiveness from Eddie Hearn and also you see, a lot of the bitterness comes from the pressure. Eddie Hearn has been having it off for most of his career. He hasn't had much competition in the UK for the majority of the time that he's been a promoter. But things are changing now. You see, when you're on top and you don't think anybody can touch you, it's easy to feel happy and, you know, jovial, happy-go-lucky. But when you have people breathing down your neck, and not just the competition, but also your own bosses are breathing down your neck, then all of a sudden you can get a little bitter. Then all of a sudden you can develop a bit of an edge. And I think that's what's happening with Eddie Hearn now. Because even though he's a global promoter and Frank Warren isn't, and obviously he's got Canelo Alvarez for a 2-fight deal and so on and so forth, the gap between Queensberry and Hearn is closing, particularly now that Queensberry have got Tyson Fury fighting on home soil again. The gap is closing, okay? And Eddie Hearn, I think, is feeling the pressure from his bosses. So this is an article about Dazn injecting 4.3 billion, well, Len Blavatnik, excuse me, the person who owns Access Industry that owns Dazn, injecting 4.3 billion into Dazn recently, or agreeing to, because Dazn had big debts, right? Loss-making. And this is their global business was loss-making. So he's injected 4.3 billion. Now, according to this article, it isn't clear if that 4.3 billion is just to cover the debts, or whether there's actually investment money in there as well, okay? But their debts have now been cleared with that 4.3. Also, it doesn't say exactly what I guess you can go to a company's house. Maybe I should do my due diligence and go to a company's house and see what Dazn's UK accounts are looking like. But they're still loss-making. I knew they were loss-making. They're still loss-making at this point. And that will give us an indication of how much pressure Eddie Hearn is under. Of course, they missed out on the Premier League rights, and that was a big deal. In the United States, have they got anything major? Do they have NFL or anything like that in the United States? Perhaps they don't. So Hearn's going to be under pressure to deliver. He's going to need to deliver stars. He's going to need to deliver ratings. He's going to need to deliver subscribers. And this is where, again, I think a lot of the change in Eddie Hearn's attitude, it's subtle at the moment, it's gradual, but I'm noticing a change in his attitude where he is becoming a bit more mean. He is becoming a bit more like the promoters that he used to criticize. Leonard Blavatnik is not going to want to put in this type of money every couple years. He's going to want his business to start actually making money. And of course, being as rich as he is, he's made countless investments, I'm sure, and been very successful. And maybe he's been as aggressive as this in other industries. I don't know. But at some stage, Dazn is going to have to start turning a profit. I'm sure in some markets, Dazn does make a profit. I've got no doubt because they have major sports in certain markets. Have they got the Bundesliga in Germany? And I think they've got some major things out in Japan. So I'm sure in certain markets they're turning a profit. But globally, they're not turning a profit. And how much of that is down to all the capital that he's invested in boxing in the United States and in the United Kingdom, particularly in the States, but also in the United Kingdom, right? And Eddie Hearn is responsible for all the boxing for Dazn. So how much of the debt has been down to the boxing? How much of that debt has been accrued on Eddie Hearn's watch? I can't imagine that there hasn't been board meetings where Blavatnik's been there or some of the other top brass, Eddie Hearn superiors at DAZN. I can't imagine that there hasn't yet been board meetings where Eddie Hearn's present and he's getting a little sweaty under the armpits, maybe a bead of sweat running down here after the stuff they're telling him. And the way these things normally work, as you guys know, when he's been getting a rollicking, he'll then go and give a rollicking or start putting pressure on people beneath him. Or he'll start to change his priorities. Certain fighters, they're no longer getting phone calls from Eddie Hearn because he's thinking, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to be a star for me. I'm going to concentrate on somebody else instead. I mean, you look at this Galal Yefai guy, right? Eddie Hearn throwing him straight in a 10-rounder in some type of eliminator or intercontinental title bout. And I know Galal Yefai was a gold medalist and he's got all this experience as an amateur, but maybe it's a way of Eddie Hearn finding out immediately exactly what he has. Because if this guy isn't all he's cracked up to be, perhaps Eddie Hearn will say, nah, I'm not really going to concentrate on him. No reason trying to invest in this guy or, pay him too much attention because I don't think he's going to go anywhere anyway. So let me not put that much effort into promoting him. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. Is Eddie Hearn coming under increasing pressure? Particularly when you look at how well Sky have bounced back. I mean, Josh Taylor's a tremendous fighter to have on Sky. Undisputed champion and so on. You got Eubank Jr., who's a name, but he's not like an elite fighter. But again, the commercial value of Eubank Jr. is there to be seen. They did very good numbers for the Liam Williams fight. It wasn't a pay-per-view, of course, but they did very good numbers. And they did Brooke Khan, a fight they've been wanting to do for many, many years. Eddie Hearn's got to be looking at that and thinking, okay, these guys are actually competing with us now. Was it a mistake moving to DAZN? I mean, don't get it twisted. I wanted him to move to DAZN because the way Sky were carrying on was just too much. But unfortunately, Eddie Hearn's broadcast team at DAZN is shockingly bad. And you see, this is the thing that can happen. The same thing that's happening to him is what happened to Frank Warren before him, where he's fallen out of touch. Yeah, he's losing touch with what boxing fans actually want. See, Frank Warren, when he started Box Nation and he was over there, he brought all his friends over to be pundits. All these guys he'd known in the boxing industry for a long time, maybe they were personal friends of his, to be pundits on Box Nation. And it didn't work. It was like some dusty old boys club pub lunch or something. It didn't work at all. It's horrible, actually. The only good thing to ever come out of Box Nation was Barry Jones. The rest of them, I mean, forget about it. Horrible. And Eddie Hearn is doing something similar here with DAZN. He's bringing all his friends over from Sky, the Darren Barkers and the other guys, Chris Lloyd and all these other people. Man, these lot are not a charismatic and interesting broadcast team at all. The only two I would keep, personally, is Andy Lee and Ade. That's it. The rest of them all gone. Laura Wood's gone. I mean, Maya Jama, she's taking the absolute mick. I mean, nice work if you could get it, right? We could just turn up to work whenever you want and get paid a king's ransom when you do turn up. That's nice work if you could get it. I can't hate. But from perspective of the business and from the perspective of a boxing fan, right, a consumer, Maya Jama is enthusiastic when she does turn up to work. She doesn't know anything about boxing, and that's why she's not particularly motivated to actually turn up and work for DAZN very often. She knows nothing about boxing, and you can see it in her actions. So as enthusiastic as she is, and the reason I'm talking about enthusiasm is because if she's there to just ask questions of the experts, you need somebody that has some energy to be able to actually banter with the experts and, make it interesting to watch. And I guess that's what they had still have at Sky with Anna Woolhouse, right? And Eddie Hearn was looking to replicate that same formula. He thinks that formula works well. They've got the same thing in America on Fox with, is it Kate Abdo? They all seem to want to replicate the same formula with a woman who's then going to ask questions of the experts and so on. But out of all those women, Kate Abdo, Anna Woolhouse, etc., and even if you include Maya Jama, Laura Woods is the dullest of all of them. Laura Woods just looks like a media veteran, right? She knows her way around media. She knows her way around presenting, but there's just no enthusiasm in Laura Woods at all. It's so dull to watch her talking to Tony Bailey. I mean, she makes Conor Benn, when Conor Benn's up there, look like Muhammad Ali in terms of charisma. So no. They've all got to go. If I somehow came in, right, in a fantasy scenario, they're all gone. The only people I'm keeping on are Andy Lee and Ade. That's it. And after that, of course, I'm bringing in Paulie Malignaggi. I'm bringing in Carl Frutch from Sky. We're going to try to poach him. I'm bringing in David Hay. These people are just going to be temporary for now, right? They're not all going to stay long term. But these are the kind of people I'll bring in. Colorful characters. That is what Eddie Hearn was unable to see. The Sky, their presentation team, their commentary team was missing colorful characters. And that's what boxing fans want to see. And not just boxing fans, even casual fans, they want to see that. You see, Eddie Hearn is trying to appeal to casual fans by bringing in the Maya Jammers, but nobody's watching DAZN right now compared to Sky. One of the things in business or anything like that, and of course, here's me nowhere near as successful as Eddie Hearn trying to lecture him about business. Bit ridiculous, right? But at the same time, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't have a millionaire dad who I could just go straight into the industry and so on and so forth. So as talented as Eddie Hearn is, would he be in the same position as he is now without his dad, Barry Hearn? You know? So our ideas that may be different from Eddie's, is he going to be right about everything and we're going to be wrong about everything because we're not as successful as he is? You guys let me know what you think about that. But my 2 cents on it, right, is that Eddie Hearn has lost touch with the core audience, and the casuals, of course, you need to bring them in, but you need to create a vibe first. That's what you need to do. And you create the vibe with the core audience. You need characters. You can't make boxing just like a totally sanitized mainstream type of thing. And see, with the mainstream, these days anyway, everyone is like an automaton in mainstream media, certainly in the UK. There are no characters. It's all these bland people without personalities who just look the same and they look generic and they have very lightweight personalities. People don't want that, especially in a game like boxing where you've got all these trash talkers and all this kind of stuff. When you've got all this PC stuff and then you got fighters that are trash talkers and they're saying all kind of stuff about each other and they're trying to beat each other after death in the ring, the two things don't mesh. The two things don't gel. You need characters. I'm not saying that everybody on the broadcast team has to be a character, but you need a few characters there, you know? If you go back to the 1990s, and oh God, Hatman's talking about the 1990s again. Yeah, I'm talking about the 1990s again. You go back to the 1990s on Sky, on ITV, never on the BBC, but on ITV, you had characters. They used to have John McCririck doing the odds for boxing. He was a big boxing fan, John McCririck. Right? Big, larger than life, crazy character doing the odds on the boxing shows. You'd have him having a laugh with Jim Rosenthal. You'd have people that were passionate and people that had not only boxing experience, but life experience. It wouldn't be these generic people they're bringing in with dead banter like Darren Barker and Chris Lloyd. I mean, have you ever laughed at a Darren Barker and Chris Lloyd joke or their banter? It is the deadest banter I've ever seen. No disrespect to either of them as human beings, right? They might be lovely people, but in a professional capacity, watching as a consumer, it's dead. It's so dead. Come on, people. And Eddie Hearn is just so out of touch now. He's so in love with his own success. He thinks that bringing all his mates over to the zone is going to make a incredible, game-changing commentary team. I mean, I never liked the Sky commentary team, but the DAZN commentary team is so bad that they make the Sky commentary team look like award winners. Seriously. That's how bad they are. Again, other than Andy Lee and Ade, who I'd keep on, the rest of them have got to go. Rant over. Let me know how you guys feel about everything I've said in this video about Eddie Hearn, DAZN injecting all the money, the commentary team, everything. All right? I'm out.